Please help me welcome Lance Klein.
Wow.
All right.
It's a little different than last time I was here.
It was
Hello, everybody.
a little more fancy.
Before we get started, what the fuck? Well, first of all, he dropped an F-bomb before we even got started. So, okay, we got that kind of audience.
Yes. Well, we're going to get it
And
one way or
then
another.
the property management, lacking technology.
We should talk about that because...
Oh, my God. Okay, all right. I'll be ready for lessons.
You know what?
So-
So actually, in Lance's defense, Lance, when I went to work for him, he had a system called Goldmine, which was like insane cutting edge. And
Which we just replaced, actually.
which, yeah, you told me like how you just replaced it.
Yeah, we did. It's big. It's fun. We'll
So
talk about it maybe.
you replaced. I think you did. You said replaced it with.
I'm using a CRM called Zoho. Anybody using Zoho? Z-O-H-O? It's if you're looking for a CRM, might want to check it out.
It's intense.
It's very customizable.
Yes.
It's not designed for any specific business. You could sell plastic cups or real estate or whatever you want to do. It does take a certain amount of customization,
Yeah.
but you don't need a programming degree to do it. So
I heard it's just a giant marketing funnel, and you have to kind of get all the. So I did a demo with them, and they basically made the point that you have to get all your image, your documentation, your sales pitch all in order, and they sort of help you organize it.
Yeah, I think that's true with any program that you're going to use like that. So
Yeah, but Goldmine was like insane.
it was. It was and it still is, but it's a little dated.
Okay, so I kind of gave you guys a little background. For those of you guys who don't know, Lance is an absolute data nerd, and one of the things and that's why I kind of gave him shit about the technology side, because is your mailing list approached 50,000 yet?
I had 96,000 people in my database.
Okay.
That's when I was with Goldmine. If you guys are familiar, we're talking in code up here. Goldmine is a CRM. It's been around forever. And in the process of converting to my new program, $96,000 records, you're going to have some duplication and some corruption. So we kind of pared that down to about 62,000.
It's insane, though.
But yeah,
it's a big number.
Names, phone numbers, emails, legitimate
Blacklist.
addresses, blacklists. Yeah, we just got blacklisted yesterday, actually.
Oh, for your dad?
Yeah, but
for
we
the
cleaned that
comments?
up.
No, but you had
Anybody
a
got an
blacklist.
email from me in the last couple of days?
I did.
Nobody? Well, Tim, you must have got an email from me, at least one. So, at any rate, okay, well, I won't spam you.
But you had a blacklist for people you didn't want to work with.
Oh, different blacklist.
That's what I was talking about.
Yes.
Which was, I remember during the REO days, you're like, never again, never again,
Yeah,
never again.
I don't know if this is where you want to start, but sure, we can start with that.
Okay.
Well, anybody I've done business with in any way, shape, or form, which is beyond just a handshake and a hello. I mean, generally, if you hand me a business card today, that business card goes in my database. If you work in my office, you're not allowed to give me a Post-it note and say Jim called, call him back at 951 blah blah blah. No Post-it notes, no scratch paper.
That's where I want to start, actually.
Okay.
So that's exactly where I want to start. So our office is basically a no paper office.
Yep.
Because of you. So Todd is the exact same way. He hates printing stuff. So you made that change 2007-ish, 2008?
Well, as far as the no paper stuff, I probably made that in 1996.
Okay, so forever ago.
Yeah, and it wasn't so much that I was a big data geek at the time. It was just I do what everybody in this room has done before. Someone would hand me a business card. There would be a name on it, or I'd write a note on the back. It was really important, and I had to call this person back, and I'd put it in my jacket or in my pocket, and it'd get lost. Or a week later, I'd open up the dryer in the water drying machine, and I'd see what was left of that card that had a $20,000 commission on it, and I'd just be like, "Oh, what am I doing?" And I realized the bigger I got as a company, you can't rely on the old school day runners. You can't rely on a 3-ring binder. You can't rely on 3x5 postcards. You can't rely on staff giving you Post-it notes. Everything has to get in the system, which doesn't mean everything gets done when it's supposed to, but nothing gets lost. So, whoever I was supposed to call today that didn't get called, well, before I go home tonight or when I go to bed tonight, oh crap, there's 30 people that didn't get a phone call. but at least they're not on a Post-it note that accidentally slipped under the seat of my car, which is lost forever. So I don't know. Maybe we can talk a little bit about data and how we manage it.
Well, that's kind of where I want to, from a business planning standpoint, because in 2007, as the market was crashing, and through 2008, and you'd already been through this once, so this is only my memory. So you have a whole nother decade plus your family's experience to go back. But the one thing that really stuck with me was when that cycle was changing, you already had this giant infrastructure of people you had contacts with.
Yep.
Which I wasn't privy to in any way. I was like, this is insane. What's this guy doing? As I came over. And then you brought these agents in, and you put this system in place to, lead router, which we can dig into.
Still using it today.
Yeah, which helps follow up on lead tracking, and you had a whole bunch of these experienced agents were sort of lost. They know what to do, right? I mean, we had a lot of people fly from Prudential and other offices that were bankrupting like mine, and they were coming to you like, hey, what the hell do I do? You have inventory, and they were behind in technology, behind in sales planning, behind in a whole bunch of stuff. So when they show up, there's this expectation that they need to get on your level.
Well, I don't know if that was their expectation. That's
yours.
That's always my expectation, which is generally not met.
Yeah.
But I'll give you a little bit of background about who I am and what I'm all about to put this in context. I'm 51. I'm a broker. I'm really not. Most of you guys in the audience are flippers and investors of sorts. That's not really me, believe it or not. I mean, we do manage about 1,000 units in the Inland Empire. So you would think that my natural path would be kind of your path, investing and purchasing and all the rest of that. But most of my investment, to be honest with you, is in my company. I've been building my company for 20 years. Having said that, I'm 51. I got my real estate license when I was 19, and I have done nothing else. I have either been a real estate traditional agent selling homes, maybe just a few of you in this room, or a broker owner, which is for the last, I don't know why I'm looking at Stephen for the answer. For the last 17 years, I guess, I've been a broker owner. I've got 4 offices, about almost 300 agents, Redlands, Moreno Valley, Claremont, and Covina. That's kind of my marketplace, Inland Empire, West San Gabriel Valley. Stephen had mentioned the first REO cycle. Anybody buying or selling, Fannies and Freddies in the mid-'90s, early '90s? Okay, well, I got my license when I was in 1987, started selling full-time January 1, 1987, literally January 1. And, just like and who's an agent? Who's got their license?
What's license?
Okay, got a few of you. Okay, well, let's be honest. Normally the first year sucks, right? It's like, practically bankrupt and trying to figure stuff out. So came out into the Moreno Valley market, and Moreno Valley was good. If you were in the Inland Empire, Moreno Valley, Riverside, or anywhere in the Inland Empire in 88, 89, 90, 91, it's pretty hard not to be successful. Yeah. And in some ways, and I'm not going to compare 2018 to 1988 or 89, but I'm starting to see some similarities from a standpoint of construction. A lot of construction going on out there, and I've been screaming for the last several years. Huh?
I'm with you there.
Yeah, a lot of new construction. Now, it's not like it was in 88, but at any rate. So who remembers what happened in 1991? Well, and the Kij was, in effect, Gulf War. What was it, Desert Shield or Desert Storm or one of those. And I'll never forget it. I was sitting in my office in Moreno Valley with my dad at the time. It was 2 of us in the office. And I was young. 91, how many years ago? Was that 18, 19 years ago? So I was 24, I guess. And I'm freaking the F out, dude.
Yeah.
Long time ago. Well, I'm
math.
freaking out because I was in that generation. We didn't really, I'm not a military guy. I'm not a military family. Certainly didn't get drafted. But we're dropping bombs and we're going to war, and I'm young.
Yeah, man, I remember the video, like the news coverage online. You're watching like thousands of bombs hit like.
It was
Kuwait.
crazy.
It was insane.
Crazy and scary.
Yeah.
As a young man, thinking, "Geez, I might have to go to war. Yeah. I got a baby at home." Which, by the way, you didn't mention my other son Drake. Jesus, my son Drake. He mentioned Drew, who works with me for years. My youngest son Drake.
I didn't get to work with Drake though. I worked with Drew.
Well, you still can remember his name. Jesus Christ. Jeez.
I told you.
Who's handling
five,
this guy?
5 years in. No, I don't have a handler yet. I'm not as successful as you. I don't have that yet.
Okay, so at any rate, so
He has a
91,
full-time assistant.
things changed in 91, and they changed rapidly. And we went from a very nice real estate market where you could make some money, whether you were an agent like me or whether you were investing, to dead. And then in effect, we had a foreclosure cycle from 92, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-ish, depending on where it was. Which is funny because that foreclosure cycle is nothing like who got to have some fun with the 2007, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Well, the foreclosure cycle that we had in the mid 90s was like, but it seemed, and I don't know why you and I have connected here already because I'm getting the but that seemed really bad. Really, really bad in the mid-90s. And then we kind of recovered in 98, 99, and then we had this beautiful, just ridiculous run up until about 2005, 6. And then to kind of tie in with what Steven said, I kind of, not that I was the smartest guy in the room, because I certainly wasn't, but about 2005, you could see, wow, this makes no sense at all. Things are just going bad.
You could.
Well, I think some people that were paying attention could. I think anybody that was paying attention could, and which brings back to the database. I'm a big database guy, so I started calling all my Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and Countrywide at the time, and all those investors, not investors, but all of those REO portfolios and asset managers, and said, hey, it's coming. Which, by the way, who's going to the Rio Mac conference next month in Palm Desert? Boy,
okay, you know
I'll
what?
buy you a beer.
I didn't know that was coming up, but I'm definitely going.
It's coming up. Okay, well, again, we're hopefully I'm not talking too high level of stuff, but you know, if with the Rio Mac conference is coming up, if for most of you probably someone, what is he talking about? Well, that's okay because there's going to be about 250 people there. Back when the cycle was going on, there'd be about 5,500 people there. And they're all looking for REO business. But anyway, I went to the Rio Mac conference in 2005, and I said, hey, what's going on? Because I think we're in a problem. And for the most part, everyone's like, what are you talking about? You know, this is pie in the sky, baby. Go buy real estate, and it's never going to end. And people were buying houses that should no business buying houses. And who's heard of Chris Thornburg? Okay, you guys need to get out more. Okay.
Next week you could see him.
Anyway, Chris is going to speak at a conference I'm doing next week. But anyway, Chris was at that conference and basically was the first person who said what I kind of thought what was going on. And he was like, hey, party's over. Party's over. So you position yourself and you sit back and say, okay, business is maybe going to change. You hopefully guess right. You do the old Wayne Gretzky thing. You know, don't skate to where the puck is. Skate to where you think the puck's going to be, yada, yada. And so I skated to where I thought the puck was going to be, and I skated right, which was basically REO inventory, which, put my kids into college and paid my mortgages and my cars.
It was bonkers.
It was bonkers, which is where Steven and I met. We were getting 50, 100 phone calls a day from people that said, I want to buy, I want to buy, I want to buy, I want to buy.
Yeah, that was the bat phone
days. The bat phones, which is a whole other inside baseball.
But I wanted to get around to that, and the reason I brought it up is something happened afterwards that was really important in your career and my understanding of the business. So when I left your office and went to go work for another REO broker as a partner, and then came back eventually because I was like, this sucks.
Grass is greener.
You picked up.
They had better technology. That's why you left.
They did not. That's why I left, because they needed me. Lance picked up 4 offices on accident.
Well, that's the second half of the story. So you guys were buying houses and flipping houses, or thinking about buying houses and flipping houses. One of the things, the mistake that I felt that I made, and by the way, I don't have it all figured out. Don't look at me for the answers. I'm a very modest guy. I try to make the best decisions, but I've made lots of mistakes, okay? But in the first REO cycle that we went through, I did very well. Did very, very well. But my focus was always building my business. My business is a property manager of your people's property, and an agent who basically works with a traditional real estate sellers and buyers. I'm right in that traditional market. I'm like your nephew or your aunt or your cousin who has a real estate license, except I'm good. But the mistake that I made after the 1990s cycle is when all the REOs went away, I had nothing to leverage it on. And I was just kind of standing in my office when Stephen was there, and I had like 20 people around me, and I'm like, well, shit, we did really, really good, but now it's over, at least for that period of time, and we didn't do anything with it. So when the next cycle came around, and again, for those of you that were actively in the investing market in 2009, was it a bloodbath? A lot of opportunity, by the way.
Oh, it was a nightmare.
But it was terrifying. But lots of opportunity, even though the knife was still falling. And if you had the balls to catch it, you probably lost money in 2009 and 10 and maybe 11 until things started to come back.
But $60,000 houses, though.
Well, true, which is why you could do okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, the bottom line is I started to buy real estate offices. So my investment strategy was to basically buy real estate offices. And the people that were looking at me were like, I think my third F-bomb, they were like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you buying real estate offices? Because at the time, real estate offices were a dime a dozen, and they really weren't worth a whole hell of a lot. And the reality was I didn't really pay a whole lot for them. But I wasn't buying the office. I was buying an established, I'm a Coldwell Banker guy. Brand's been around for 100 years. I was buying offices that had been in communities for 20 years that had 40 agents, and they were established.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, geez, it's not going to be terrible forever, right? So let's ride the wave, and then when the wave changes, I'll have a traditional brokerage, and then we'll be able to make some money as a brokerage operation, and which was a great plan. And as all of those folks that were telling me I was crazy, my response was, and it's frankly still my response, except pay attention to what I'm going to say because there's a problem with it. This is 2009. So I would tell them in 2009, I said, this is the deal. Talk to me in 5 years, and I'm either going to be a genius or I'm going to be an idiot. Now, if you do the math on that, so by 14, we should have figured out whether I was a genius or an idiot. So if you ask me the same question today, I'd be like, talk to me in 5 years. Which is a whole nother conversation, probably not a conversation that you guys are really interested in. But I will tell you the real estate business, not buying and selling and flipping and investing, totally different conversation. But the real estate business, it's a broken business.
Yes.
It's a broken model, okay? And that I'm in that business. So getting back to the theme of the night, which is business planning, okay, I just acknowledged publicly, and we're being streamed live on Facebook right now on my page. I just said, whoa, I own 4 offices and 275 agents, and I'm in a broken business, which means I better have a business plan, and I better have a model that says, what am I doing differently to adjust to this business model, which is, I think, why Stephen asked me to come. So I'll kind of share some of my stuff, and maybe you can apply it to what you guys are doing in your business model.
Can I pick apart 2 parts of that? So to share a conversation we had that was off the record, but leave it kind of vague. I remember you said to me, I have an opportunity to take over these offices, and it costs me nothing.
Yep.
So why wouldn't I pick up agents? It's obviously going to make me money. Essentially, you got a call and said, the office is going to close if you don't take these places over.
Yep.
So the one thing that...
But by the way, when anybody tells you it's not going to cost you anything...
Well, that's like here's a free puppy.
Right.
So, but you made the point that you don't have to buy into it, right? And what you're presented with at that point was you have a whole bunch of agents, not only the ones that came in for the REO business, but all these new people that have no plan.
Correct.
And so you had to figure out what the hell to do with these people.
Correct.
And that's what I want to kind of go into it. And we acknowledge it's a broken business. And as I said, I'm going to kind of talk about, I'm speaking at his event, which we should talk about that for a second. So why Lance is here. So Lance is here because business planning fits perfectly. It also, timing-wise, fits perfectly with his market timing event, which did so 2 years ago as well. Lance Martin has a market forecasting event at the Doubletree in Ontario. And basically the best of the best are coming to be there. And the people who are focusing on our market alone will all give their perspective, and it's your job to digest it. But when you started this thing, it was sort of this. We used to have these monthly updates, these meetings in the office, and they did okay. There's these like all agent meetings, but but it wasn't. It was Lance's perspective on the market, and everybody kind of talked about it. But it didn't attract new people, and so he put on this giant event. And the first year was awesome, and it's gotten better ever since. And reason we're a sponsor of the event is because between your event and Norris's event, I truly believe in these two events because they give people real information about what's going on. And he brought up Christopher Thornburg because Christopher Thornburg is my personal favorite economist because I just want to get fucked up with him and like run around Vegas.
He'll do that with you.
Yeah, he's a good time. Yeah, but he's crass and interesting and he's real. And so getting back to like where we're going, you had all these new agents, and so when you're a new agent, and I want to put this in the perspective of what's happening now. So when I bring on a new investor today, somebody that's our acquisition team or whatever, what we tell them all is everything's a three-prong execution. So what we say is, and I was going to text you this earlier to kind of get you to think about it, but I just didn't get around to it, honestly.
That's fine. I can handle it. Give it to me. I'm excited.
So
Three prongs. Here we go.
So we're investing in some tech companies.
Okay.
And the tech companies are sort of like those companies that are similar to the old school ones where they would specifically mail to the people most likely to sell, right?
Okay.
Now, as an investor, which is where I think this applies as an investor and as an agent, where your experience will help everybody here. If you send a mail, you're going to get a call. And the seller, for whatever reason, is going to be multiple type of seller, right? You have a desperate seller because they have a circumstance. You have a just average seller that has a home they want to unload because they're going to move or upgrade or whatever. And then you have the seller who is a little stronger and they have some capital and they're willing to improve the property in some way and do some improvements. And those are the sort of three archetypes other than all the estate stuff and all the other weird outlier stuff, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
So if we get an incoming call, that's why I talked to you about Lead Router the other day. So I called Lance and said, hey, you got this phone system you used to have. Can we tap into it? Because we're going to start mailing. What I've told our acquisitions people is every call is a deal. It is either a flip, it is a standard sale, or it is a standard sale where the owner is going to put some money into it to sell for top dollar. It's your job to go to that person and say, I'm going to pay you this much today. You will make this much if you give it to an agent in 120 days.
Okay.
Or if you put some money in some rehab, you'll make this much in 180 days. And so the perspective was like a value add, right, to the client, the seller. And if every would-be investor in this room, licensed or not, adopted this strategy, they can make just as much money referring deals to agents as they could flipping property.
Right. So I'm waiting for the three prongs. So the three prongs is the three different types of sellers, or I got the mailing and we're waiting for some.
So I'm mailing to you saying you want to sell, and you're going to call me. You're one of three types of sellers.
Okay.
So either I'm going to buy it.
Yep.
Or I'm going to call somebody from your office and say, hey, I need you to list this because you're an expert in the area.
Got it.
So if that's the case, and it's a broken business, right? We've established that.
But every business is broken.
They all are.
Right. Everybody goes out of business, right?
Well, the guy who invented the freezer was not the guy who brought in the ice cubes from the Arctic, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, if an agent today comes in your office, it's brand new. Given that perspective or any other perspective you have, what do you tell them? What's the first thing you tell them to start doing?
Well, I don't know that it's changed a whole heck of a lot from when I got in the business. Again, I've been doing this my entire life, 30 years, and the stuff that worked 30 years ago will work today. That doesn't mean it worked for the entire 30 years. I mean, there were periods of times where certain things didn't work, which again was why you've got to adjust. So if I'm talking to an audience of realtors who want to make a career selling real estate, which I don't think this is the audience, I certainly would give them a plan that says these are the things that you need to do, and this is the direction you need to go.
I kind of feel like it's a little bit of the same person.
Well, but let me give you maybe a little more of a global thing. That the same type of stuff that I might tell a brand new agent is I think the same type of stuff that I would tell everybody in this room, because I think it is universal to a degree.
I agree.
Todd was talking about his business planning the 5 things not to do. And it became very apparent to me with his 5 things not to do that he was talking about a business plan that you would prepare to purchase a property, and you're now going to take that business plan to an investor and look for financing.
Absolutely.
So it was pretty clear that that was the business plan that Todd was talking about. Now, generally, the business planning I do with my agents is not that, okay? But I think the principles are basically the same. So getting back to your question, what would I tell my brand new agent? Part of it, I have a very simple 4-part process, which I think you might be able to plug into a business plan that you might put together and send to an investor. You got to identify what you want, which is pretty simple. What's your goal? So if it was an agent, I want to make $600,000, or I want to sell 45 houses. In your guys' case, I want to purchase this property and I want a return of 12% or whatever. What do you want? Okay, so I think it's pretty important to in the very beginning, and I don't mean just set a goal. What do you want and what is achievable? Which again was another one of Todd's 9 things. I think it was number 6.
9, right?
Don't be unrealistic. Don't bullshit anybody, because everybody can see that. No gimmicks. I love no gimmicks. I'm a big fan of no gimmicks. Everybody sees through the gimmicks. So at any rate, what do you want? Okay. So then the next thing is, well, what are you going to do to get it? All right. There's got to be some sort of action. So how does that translate into a business plan that you're going to write on an investment property? Is well, you got to have some sort of execution. Well, I've got my contract, I got my electrician over here, and I've got my builder over here, and these are my dues. This is my team. This is my team that's set up to do that, and I can do this at a cost that's 15% below the market. Who's flipping houses and you're going to do the rehabs yourself? Anybody in here?
Yourself.
Nobody's doing. Okay, well, one.
No, Tyler's not doing it himself.
Okay, well, good. Well, I saw one. Okay, well, I would say that's probably good, because a good contractor doesn't necessarily make a good flipper. But if you could factor that in and say, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. So I want this, and this is what I'm going to do. And the next part, again, which I think also was on Todd's do's and don'ts, which is literally, I could use those same 9 things in my business planning, which is a schedule. Don't tell me what you're going to do without telling me when you're going to do it. You got to have a plan. Steven talked about mailings a minute ago. If part of your business plan to solicit new business is mailings, okay, well, that's a do. I want to do so many units this year. Well, what am I going to do? Well, one of my do's is I'm going to solicit via mail. I'm going to send out mailers to whatever. Okay, well, that's great. Well, when are you going to do it? Don't tell me what you're going to do without telling me when you're going to do it, because most people, and they never do it, or they do it once. I am not a fan of doing anything once. So, if mailings work, then mailings will 3, 4, 10, 15 times, which, by the way, because they don't always work on the first try.
No, they work about 5 to 7
there you go.
pieces in.
So you got to do it. And then the last part is just the accountability section. So what do I want? What am I going to do? When am I going to do it? And then who ultimately holds me accountable? The reality is most of us in this room will not hold ourselves accountable. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, an investor will not loan you money without some sort of an accountability equation in there. Okay, I don't know who I stole this from, but many years ago, I met one of these, and there's a guy up here talking about the same thing we're talking about in a little different context, and he was talking. Okay, this was his question: who wants to lose weight? That's a little bit of audience participation. Who would like to lose a few pounds in the room? We definitely know Steven and Todd do, because that was their.
Hey,
that was
I know Lance hasn't hit the gym since the Mario crisis.
Okay, so the goal. What do I want? I want to lose weight. Simple. Okay, we all know what we need to do to lose weight.
Yeah,
simple. Eat a little bit less and exercise. There's really nothing else to do, right? Other than maybe cocaine and a few other things that might.
It's a Adderall gets you through it.
So at any rate. So this is what we need to do. So generally, for those of us, and I fall into that category, where do we fail on the weight loss program? It's not on the goal. We all can set the goal. We all know what to do. We fail on when are we going to do it, the action, the when. Hey, I'm going to go to I can say I'm going to go to the gym on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays, but that's just. And then the fourth is the accountability. So, and we don't hold ourselves accountable, which is why if you really want to lose weight, you go get a trainer, you get a coach, and you spend money for it. You don't do it for free. So, to the degree that applies to you guys and how you can make that happen in your business plan, I found, and by the way, I apply that to every aspect of my business, but there's a lot of aspects of my business that I fail. I fail on step 3 on I know what to do, but I'm not doing it.
But that's important.
Every day.
It's important you say that because people feel like that people who are successful by whatever measure don't fail in some way, and like all of us who try for something new fail constantly.
Right.
Like a trainer shows up in my office 2 days a week, right, and works me out in my office.
Right.
I ate like shit for like the last month because I went through some other stuff.
Right.
It didn't help me. I'm sure I feel better, but like I'm still fat. So
You actually look a little better than since I saw you last time.
that just means that just means like those 2 days are making a difference.
There you go.
But so in that respect, there's accountability. The accountability is important. Like if you tell somebody I'm going to do this, or $1,000 of your money is going to be donated to the KKK, you're probably going to do the thing, right? Like that way, because nobody wants to see that shit happen. So if you put these incentives in place, you'll do the action. But if the incentive's not great enough, you won't perform.
Yeah, but I don't know that actually works because, again, I've had thousands of agents, literally thousands of agents come through my office. And, again, I'm streaming this live on Facebook, so I'm talking to a couple of you right now.
Probably 90% of them.
So, but, you know, it's tough. For whatever reason, the human being species is not disciplined. We can't seem to do things more than once or twice.
We're bad at long-term thinking.
Okay, long-term thinking is out. Discipline is out. You know, my boys played football when they were in high school, and I was in martial arts when I was young, and I attribute some of my success today the fact that I was in martial arts when I was young, and I attribute to some of my kids' success today because they were in football when they were young. Okay. Because I just use football. More people could probably relate to that. You know, I mean, you know, practices at 6 a.m, you know, 2 a days, all the rest of that sort of stuff. They can't pass Spanish. Their algebra sucks. All the rest of that, my wife's going crazy. And I'm like, well, I don't really give a shit because they're learning that they have to get up in the morning, they have to be somewhere, and they're learning the discipline that I think is just as important as learning how to, you know, do math, to be honest with you, or learn how to speak Spanish. Having said that, we all better learn how to speak Spanish or we're going to be out of business.
Who's bilingual in here?
Yeah.
You're the future of the Inland Empire.
You are, absolutely. And I'm not joking, by the way. I mean, if, you know, the fact, I've been saying for 10 years I need to learn how to speak Spanish. The fact that I don't know how to learn to speak Spanish is costing me money. In the Inland Empire, that is costing me money. If you are a Hispanic real estate agent in this business, there is no reason in the world why you shouldn't make 20 to 30% more money than everybody else in this business.
100%. Yeah.
Easy. And
you just show up.
Whole other topic. But anyway, we seem to lack discipline. I'm assuming there's probably some investors in here that lack discipline. And you've got to stick to that. But by the way, that can be fatal. You know, if you're investing money without a plan and you're not sticking to your plan, and you have a 10-point plan and you skip plan 8 because you fell in love with everything else, well, that's piece 8 of your plan that you decided to be a little less disciplined on is going to be the one that's going to kill your return on investment, and it's going to turn that thing upside down.
Well, you know, as we're talking, it reminds me that there were things that early on working with you that I noticed, and I do now, but I didn't 10 years ago. So I remember walking into your office, and you had your 100 folders lined up along the wall when you were sort of trying to figure out, like, what's this going to do? Yep. And you had a black book, and I don't remember what it was, but it was a black book with white writing. And you said, I'm trying to read a book on a regular basis. Like, you're making the point that, and then you said, well, if I don't get to the gym, like, on a regular basis, then it's never going to happen, you know, like, and you sort of made these points, like, if you don't do these things, there's no progression. And so
I don't remember this at all, but okay.
That's what you say. Like, it's important. It's important to me, not important to you, right? Like somebody's action may be more important to the other person than you. Yeah. But I was green, right? I bombed out of a couple flips. I was in a really shitty point in my career. I used another agent as leverage to get into his office because she had a book of business, and he bought into it because he's smart and let me slide. He said, what the fuck's gonna happen? He's not gonna damage anything. Bring him in. So when I saw those things, there were actionable steps that you were taking, to do better. So maybe we shouldn't even focus on the agent stuff at all. We should focus on over the years actionable steps you've taken, because
Right.
I notice now that I take, okay, so I have a giant to-do list. And like everything on there that I throw on this to-do list is like all right,
Yep.
that's the thing. And I've adopted this new company called Fin, which is out of Silicon Valley, which they use technology and people to create like a local virtual assistant that's super efficient.
Okay, I
and
like
so I can drunk call Finn
Yep.
and say, hey, Finn, you need to call this person and in the morning schedule this and whatever, and they just do it for me. And it's amazing they can actually do it. And so
Right.
it's this thing I put in my way to prevent me from forgetting shit. And so
Yep.
what I do is I look at my to-do list and say, should I put this on my to-do list or should I call Finn? So what steps today do you take or have you taken over time to assign work, like to delegate, to automate, to whatever? Like how do you create an automated or delegated process
Right.
today?
Well, and again, we're all at different places in our business right now,
Yeah.
and if you're, and I think the answer is the same for whether you're one guy with no assistant and you're just doing your thing, or whether you've got a small team of 3 or 4, or whether you got a really big team of 50. Okay, the answer I believe is the same. Although if you're the one guy, you might think that doesn't necessarily work for me. But I'm going to kind of go back to where we started. I'm a big contact management guy. Okay. I at least 90%, yes, 90% of my income today is coming from a stream of business that I put in place 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, okay? Because everybody, there are a lot of new people. It looked like at least half of the room in here raised their hand. This is the first time they've been here, okay? So if I'm you, this is my business plan. You can't come to an event like this, sit quietly, and leave, okay? You'll get some good information. Hopefully somebody gives you a nugget. God forbid I give you something that you can take something away from. But that's not where the value is. The value is shake some hands, meet some people. But by the way, that's where for most people, that's where it stops. You know, we have a beer and then we go away and that's it. Who knows, who's the Inland Empire in this area? Okay. Who knows the name Tom Hardig? Okay, a few of you know the name Tom Hardig. So I'm going to tell a quick Tom Hardig story. For those of you that know him, you'll understand this story. I'll have a little bit more meaning for you. I came into Moreno Valley at the age of 21, and I was 1 year in the real estate business and basically broke. Okay, Tom at the time, for those of you that raised your hand, was a broker in the Moreno Valley area, and Tom reached out to me and basically had the same conversation that we're having right now with me and kind of say, if you want to be successful in this business, kid, this is what you need to do. Now, I didn't really know it at the time, but he was trying to recruit me to come work in his office. But the gist of it is this is a relationship business. Put people in the system, do the stuff that we all know we're supposed to do, send thank you cards, call on birthdays, be real and genuine. Now, that was in 1998. In 2006, I did business with Tom. Between 1998 and 2006. Did business. A little bit here, escrow there. But what's the difference, 98, 2006? What is that?
8 years.
8 years? God, it seemed like longer than that. Okay. But at any rate, what happened in 2006? Actually, excuse me, I said 98. 1988.
Oh.
I met Tom in 88.
Jesus.
2006. So that's a little bit longer.
18 years. Yeah.
18 years. 18 years later, I bought Tom's company. Okay? And I bought it because of what happened 18 years earlier and everything that happened in between.
And you bought basically all the Fannie Mae business.
I basically at that time bought his Freddie Mac business.
Yeah, or Freddie Mac, yeah.
Freddie Mac business. Tom had a Freddie Mac account. And hey, Tom, maybe we're on Facebook and you're saying hey. So love you. Hey, Jan. So, but in 2006, market was changing. Skate to where the puck's going to be, not where it's at. Sat down. Tom was in a different place in his career, did his thing, and he was kind of winding down. And I'm like, hey, let's do something. And we went to our place, breakfast coffee shop.
For those
we did a deal and bought his company.
Okay,
Sure.
Jeff. For those who don't know, like Tom was a staple in Moreno Valley.
Yeah.
And like when
Like
Lance's
the
donut,
Godfather.
like he was the guy.
He's the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to clarify.
Yeah,
that for
he's
people who don't know.
he's the godfather of REO in the 90s. He was doing Fannie Mae. Everyone knows Fannie Mae, right? Okay, this is, I don't know. Some of you will think this story's cute. Others will have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. But in 2002, I get a phone call on my cell phone
Zach Morris style.
from Tom, and says, "Hey, dude, come on over to my office. I have an opportunity for you. I'm going to set you up with Fannie Mae." And I'm like, "Sure, I'll be right there." Click. And I turned, I think, to my dad at the time, and I said, "I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm married to Julie, and Tom's setting me up with Fannie Mae." And, no, but in all honesty, I called Tom back, and I said, "Tom, I got to be straight with you. I'm on my way over, but what's Fannie Mae?" Okay, this was in 2000 or 1993, I think it was. Now, we all know who Fannie Mae is kind of in the abstract today, but I was in the real estate business for a few years at that time. I didn't know who Fannie Mae was. He said, "Don't worry about it. You come on over, I'm going to explain who she is." So at any rate, it's relationships. So the relationship that I built, you guys are going to run into people. You're sending out mailers. Mm-hmm. People are calling you. Those people are not going to necessarily buy or sell or be in your sphere today. But if you do it right, you're going to do business with those people next year, 4 years, 5. I tell my agents, and I think this also applies to you guys as well. I don't know who said this statistic. I don't know how you verify it, but I totally believe it's true. If a buyer calls my office today, off of a Zillow, whatever, I'm interested in Main Street, okay? The average incubation for the average buyer, from the time they call an office and say, "I want to buy," to the time they actually open an escrow is 18 months.
18?
18 months, okay? Now, my other son, Drew, he's been in the market. By the way, just to put this in perspective, he's in the business. He knows what's going on. He has access to my database. He just closed escrow on a house a month ago. He's like every other buyer out there. He's been trying to buy a house for about a year. And this is somebody who's in the business, okay? So just think about if you're not in the business, you're not experienced, and you don't have access to all that, inside information, all the rest of that. But the problem in I think, my business, in the real estate agent business, and I also think the problem in your business potentially is you guys can't look at it as, I've got a prospect, I got a deal. Oh, it didn't happen today, therefore I don't have a deal. Because the deal that's in front of you today might not be ready today. It's probably going to be ready at some point down the road. And for most of you, it's so far down the road, it's somebody else's deal.
It is somebody else's
Which
deal.
nothing is worse than that. Who's had that level of experience, right? Where you had an opportunity 2 years ago, but because it wasn't ready 2 years ago, you abandon it, and then you find that somebody else in this room gobbled up that opportunity 3 months ago because you just checked out, which again brings it back to contact management and a system. By the way, it's all systems. I mean, whether you're buying a flip, there's a system, right? Mm-hmm. It's pretty simple. You follow a system. Everything is a system. The catch, and by the way, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people in this room, buy them a drink, they'll tell you the system. Or maybe you went over the system 2 months ago. I don't know.
No, not yet.
You haven't gone? Okay, that's a secret. That comes, yeah.
Coming months later.
That's right.
Piece by piece.
There's a system for this. You follow the system, you're going to have some success. It's the same way whether you're selling real estate, whether you're buying real estate, whether you're doing loans. There's the hard money guy, the lender in here. I mean, he's got a system. It's pretty simple. Square pegs go in square holes, and round pegs go in round holes, and otherwise we don't do that. He follows the system. It's pretty straight. But again, most of us don't have the discipline to follow the system.
Okay, so
Myself included sometimes.
all of us do it.
Yep.
Or just days I just don't feel like it. So you had the experience during the down cycle, or actually going through today, that you picked up a client, a low yield client who you were able to sell a bunch of property to.
Yep. The hedge funds.
Yes.
Yep.
So, other than the obvious, right? Other than, I can sell this guy a bunch of property.
Yep.
What is it about? So, a lot of people in here think they need to talk to agents. I think agents are a waste of time 90% of the time. But
Most of them are.
most of them are. Just no.
Sorry.
No. So actually, I want to go back to what I was saying. But Lance is a good point. Okay. Failure in my career in his office. I sat down in Lance's office with a friend of mine who I built a brokerage with actually later on. And Lance had this lead router system. And this lead router system was a giant failure. It wasn't a failure because the system didn't work. It was a failure because agents are lazy as shit. So Lance had a couple agents who were kicking ass. One of them was Stephen Maya, who later picked up the system and started taking over a lot of leads. So he had the system. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to take over this system for you, and here's what I'm going to do. And Lance is like, yeah, come back tomorrow. Your shit sucks. And he's kind of looking at me like, hey, the thing you're pitching me is bullshit. If I look at Lead Router, you've got 90 leads and you've replied to 20 of them, you suck. And that's how I was at the time, right? I didn't really do well with I didn't actually like the sales business at all. Like I hated people, and I'd rather sell to investors. That being said, people have a lot of incoming, and they don't necessarily follow up, and they fail in their system. So there's a shit ton of leads coming in your office, and somehow a fund got to you.
Well, yeah, there was a hedge fund or some representatives of a hedge fund that came into my office in 2010-ish.
So they walked in.
Literally walked in, which is why, again, don't judge a book by a cover.
Yeah.
Right? Book by the cover, yep. And walked in. We had a meeting. It was certainly a better than, which, by the way, they're probably maybe on Facebook.
Why did you grant them a meeting? Other than you told me to take
I'll grant
care of
anybody a meeting. I'm a polite guy, and I don't know where my next business is going to come from. So you come into my office, even without an appointment, which in this case, these guys came in without an appointment, and you ask to see me. If I'm there and you can wait a few minutes until I finish what I'm doing, I'm going to talk to you. And if you articulate and can put a sentence together, and I'll talk to you for a long time.
That's a staple of my business now, by the way.
Well, I'll talk to you for a long time, you know. So these guys came in with no appointment, and it was pretty clear after a few minutes there was something different about them. But at the same time, I've been doing this a long time, and I've had countless investors come into my office that say I'm all cash and I'm going to, okay. Yeah, so I figured that out a long time ago. But these guys were different, and I gave them the time that they needed, which at that time was probably 2 hours, which is pretty interesting because we're pretty busy. But obviously the first 10 minutes went well, and so did the next 20 and the next 45. And it resulted in a relationship where we sold them, 150 or so houses, starting 2 months after that. And this was several years ago. But again, they have a plan, and part of their plan is, with most of you, some of you are buy and hold, never sell. Some of you are buy and sell immediately, and some of you are buy and hold 2 to 5, 3 years, whatever it happens to be. And that was their plan at the time. And guess how many years it's been? It's been right about that window. And we're talking about stuff. And last year, that particular relationship led to a different relationship, which was another hedge fund type client. And got the phone call out of the blue and said, hey, got a few properties, which resulted in us selling about 100. How many houses did we sell for them? 120? About 120 houses for a different fund, but now we were on the other side of the transaction. They had purchased these, and now they wanted to sell it, which, by the way, there's some interesting stuff going on in that space right now. A lot of those folks, those institutional institutional investors who own large portfolios, have kind of thought, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to, take some, cash off the table and cash in. But I have 2 rules to work in my office. They're really simple. And at first blush, you're like, yeah, great. That's what I came here for. Are you ready? You got to be professional, and you got to take care of your clients. Pretty simple, okay? Most of us don't meet that standard, okay? We just don't, okay? I could define professional as, pick up your phone, return your messages, deal with problems in a timely fashion. And if you can't do that, then of course you're not taking care of your clients. But I like to think we're pretty good at being professional and taking care of our clients. So anyway, the hedge funds, very interesting right now. I think you're going to, we're already seeing it, by the way. A lot of these funds have already started to liquidate their assets. I think many of them, by the way, they would prefer to liquidate them in a different fashion, which again is not necessarily this audience. You guys are looking for discounts and cap rates and all the rest of that sort of stuff. They don't want to sell to you unless you want to buy all 2,000 of them at once.
And for retail, or?
But even at that, they don't want to sell them at a 20% discount or even a 10% discount, yet alone a 30% discount, which is good for me because I want to sell them retail.
Absolutely.
And the good news is guess what they can sell them for today?
Retail.
Retail. So at some point in time, to the degree that we have an inventory problem, which we do, some of the builders, anybody in the building industry here, any BIA? Okay, well, thank you. You finally decided to build some frickin' houses.
Right, so last year, all of a sudden.
Jeez. So anyway, we should talk because I love you. Thank you guys for putting your money where your land is and building some units. And I think everybody who's building today, and I don't know the answer, maybe I want to connect with you guys after the fact, but I've been doing some, it's easy to go, Bruce Norris will tell us how many building permits have been pulled, and Chris Thornburg will say a similar number, and John Husing will do another number. And that's all well and good, but I want to know who's actually got, 2x4s and sticks on the ground, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. I got up in an airplane a week ago Wednesday, and specifically just to fly over and take a look
Hold
at
on. You chartered a plane to fly over the
I didn't really charter it. I got a buddy who's a pilot, but yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, we flew over and with one goal, and the goal was it's when you're driving around, it's hard. And when you're on a website, say, show me everything that Lennar's building, and show me everything that KB's building, and show me everything that ABC Company's building. It's fine, which, by the way, there's a lot. How many projects are being built in the Inland Empire right now? 80, 100? Different sites? A lot. Okay. And I appreciate that. Don't guess. By the way, you can't guess if you work for me. I just guessed. I appreciate that you didn't guess because you say there's 100 and someone leaves the room and says, hey, I heard there's 100 projects being built. Well, that's bullshit. And then you go take your business plan based upon some nonsense that you just heard, and now you're in trouble. But anyway, there's a lot. So we chartered a plane. We went up, and it's pretty. When you're up in the air, it's pretty easy. You can see freshly graded dirt. You can see fresh lumber. You can see people working on houses. Interestingly enough, there was a project out, I think it was in Hemet, that they're building on. And again, I've been in this town for 30 years. They're building in Hemet, and right next to it was one of those projects that they started to build like in 2005. And you could see that the curbs and gutters and everything were in, but nothing was built. But you saw 3 slabs.
Nice.
Okay? So you guys talk about some investment opportunities, right? Okay, so, and I don't know what world you guys are in, but, okay, so there's a project being built right now in Hemet that has new construction being built, and right next to it, I'm assuming there's an approved map because there's curbs and, pardon me? Correct, there would have to be. I like this guy. I don't know who you are, but we're going to meet later. I'm getting your name and number. So there's an approved map. There's 3 slabs, which basically means they started to build the models and everything went to shit, probably 2004, 5, or 6. So this is the deal. So I got a little pin dropped from my aerial tour. I'm going to take a peek at that, and I want to see what's going on. So if I'm you guys, and if that's in your wheelhouse, I don't know, maybe there's 30 lots, maybe there's 300 lots that are buildable. But I do know this. They're building brand new houses right next to that.
I have a feeling it's in my inbox. I have
it
one.
Could be in your inbox.
Somebody's been pushing me there for a while.
But that's kind of the whole, I'm doing a market, which, by the way, these Todd and Steve and said, hey, no selling, and I'm not selling.
No, this isn't a sales.
But I'm doing a market forecast next week, okay? Partially one of the reasons I do this market forecast for the last 7 years is because I travel all over the country going to seminars to listen to people speak, okay? Just by myself. I join a club, $300. I go pay another $400 to go to the seminar because I see that Chris Thornburg's speaking or whoever's speaking. And I'm just looking for data. So I still do it. Yeah. But I did it for 10, 15 years to kind of supplement my business plan. And I thought, it's a hell of a lot cheaper for me to actually buy these guys and have them come out and speak to me than it is for me to travel to Florida and Texas and Palm Desert. And believe it or not, it is. I'm spending $20,000, $30,000 a year going to conferences. And I said, this is bullshit. Let me just hire the people that I think that I want to listen to, and I'll hire them and I'll do my own event, which is basically what we've been doing, Chris. And most of it, it's not, Bruce names gets dropped a couple times. Bruce Norris, which is very accessible. And for those of you that don't know Bruce and haven't taken advantage of the product that Bruce and Aaron and Greg put together, Bruce in the Inland Empire may be a little bit overexposed because he's available and speaks so much out here. But let me give you all a suggestion. You cannot be overexposed to the Norris Group, okay? These guys are super, super smart, and they do great stuff. Same thing with Chris Thornburg, same thing with John Husing. So anyway, I put these guys together, if for no other reason, because it's part of my business plan. I mean, it's cheap information, and if you're not adjusting in this business, you're dying.
Pretty much.
You're just dying. So anyway, I could go on for hours about the hedge fund stuff. It is interesting to see what the hedge funds are doing right now, though. Mm-hmm. And I in some cases, I think they're probably a little pissed off that they didn't sell last year. Because what's the run-up in the stock market been in 2018 or 2017? So some of them might be like, well, geez, man, maybe we could have done a little bit better. Because this is the interesting part with the hedge fund guys, is I'm curious as to how they feel about investing into the single-family market. Okay, they've done very well, by the way. Very, very well. I mean, everybody here, myself included, should have been buying in 2010 and 11 and 12. But they've done, double-digit returns and 100% returns in many cases. But it's an interesting model. And by the way, just from a market standpoint, who thinks we're like in a bubble and everything's going to go to shit in another year or two? Four of you.
You think a year or two?
Huh?
You think a year or two? Or you're just asking?
No, I'm asking the question. There's four. There's four. No, I was trying to prompt people to answer. Okay. So there's four people in this room that think we're in a bubble and things are going to go to shit in a year or two. Okay, I want to talk to you four because I want to find out why. Mm-hmm. I want you to tell me why you think that's going to happen, because I don't think that's going to happen, and I very well may be wrong. Okay, so I want to talk to you guys, and if you interest me, then I'll buy you dinner and maybe even more. Sit back and say, okay, you need to tell me why you think things are as bad as they are. I don't see that. I don't see it for a lot of reasons, but that's the type of information I'm looking at, which is why. Well, let's look at it this way: if those guys are right, is it important on what you guys are going to do in the next 6 months?
Absolutely.
Now, if they're wrong, is it important on what you guys are going to do in the next 6 months? Which is, again, where some of the gambling comes in. But I love to gamble, but I don't think this business is much of a gamble. If you look at the cycles that we've been in over the last 30 years that I've been in the business, almost every one of them are predictable. Mm-hmm. Ask Bruce Norris. Ask Chris Thornburg. Mm-hmm. Ask these guys, and they'll tell you, based upon A, B, C, and D, we're in a bubble. We're in trouble. Or
so actually, that's a really important point for everybody's business plan.
Yep.
So one of our...
Can I stop you real quick? Because I might not come back to this.
Yes.
You guys may be right, but not in the Inland Empire.
Yeah, it might be L.A.
Because L.A., beach communities, Orange County, okay? Yeah. There may be, Silicon Valley, I don't know, there may be areas that we sit back and say, that is 100% true, but not over here, okay? Which is why I need to focus on, over here, by the way, just metaphorically, over here. I personally think if there is trouble anywhere in the country or in Southern California, I don't see it in a 30-mile radius of this building. Mm-hmm. We're building land. I mean, these guys don't see it. Okay, are you guys real builders, or are you building small stuff? When I say real builders, are you a big builder? Okay, so real builder. Okay, I
was told you were coming.
The KBs and the Lennars and the Lewis and the blah 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 blah. Okay, you guys, I don't know if you're in that category or not, but I say a real builder, an investor who's building 8 houses on a street that's named after their dog. That's not a real builder. Okay, well, it is a real. Hey, putting their money where their mouth is. But when these guys are putting money in the ground in the Inland Empire, that gives me a lot of confidence. I've been waiting for you guys for 2.5 years, okay? And there's a lot of you out there. And I think your timing's perfect because inventory is low. The demand, by the way, I don't know if you guys have noticed this. The demand is like off
the roof.
the hook.
You can put.
Okay.
I have a 19-point counteroffer, accepted every time.
It's off the hook.
Yeah.
It's off the hook, and on top of that, the we in the business. I know who again. Who's a realtor in the business? I know Cam and a few other you are here. I hope if I know you and I don't recognize you, I apologize. But we have an inventory problem, right? Oh, we don't have enough houses to sell. We don't have enough houses to sell. We haven't had enough houses to sell for a long time. Well, you know what? There's actually a lot more houses to sell than you realize because these guys are building them. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't exactly know what the percentage is, but a significant percentage of the inventory that's available right now is not in the MLS.
It's new homes.
And it's not what we're looking at. It's new homes.
It's on new homes.
Please share. TrueMark. Yep. 76 in what city? Chino Hills. Yep. What's your price point? Woo!
They're gone.
You sold how many? In the 800, if you guys can't hear that, because I barely heard it, and if I said it wrong, please come up and grab the mic. 70 plus homes, 800,000 price point, phase 6, and sold 30 in 100 on the priority list.
No, same
In an $800,000 price range.
Same in Rancho, same in Upland. I'm seeing the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, you know what it scares me? By the way, if you come to my market forecast next week, everybody that is going to speak, including you guys, because Todd and Steven are going to get their opportunity to say, hey, and I'm going to ask everybody the same. It's going to be kind of my closing question, and it's going to basically be what scares you. Okay, if there's one thing that you could say scares you, something is scaring these guys back here. I don't know what scares you, but you're looking at some data, you see a bubble, that bubble is scaring you a little bit, and you're saying, shit, I want to check out. Okay, so if they're hold investors, they're probably no longer holding. They're on the market, they're selling because something is triggering what's scaring them right now. The only thing that really scares me, and I'm not really scared about it, is interest rates. You know. But we've been talking about rising interest rates for about 6 years, and we finally are actually starting to see some rising interest rates because they're at who's the lender in the room? What's a conforming fixed rate 30-year loan at today? 4.65.
4 points.
Oh, I'm terrified. Now,
What?
a 5% interest rate is going to cool things down a little bit.
Yeah.
It's going to take some people out of that $800,000 price range and pull them down to a $700,000 price range. But, I mean, Christ, man, if we're going to be scared about a 5% interest rate or even a 6%, a 6% interest rate.
That's because you lived through like 10,
Yeah,
20
well, but that does scare me though.
Yeah.
But that does scare me
Yeah.
because we're like the frog in the pot, and
Yeah.
we become so comfortable at these ridiculously low lending rates that it's like when we talk about high interest rates at 4.65 points,
Yeah.
and we're like, oh my God, we're in a bubble. And again, I still want to talk to you guys. I'm like, that doesn't worry me. Now, if we start dropping nukes on somebody or some shit gets weird or weirder, then, who knows? But I love Inland Empire real estate. I love Inland Empire real estate. I don't want to say it's not possible to get hurt because you can get hurt in any market, but I think there's a lot of opportunity. And I love the fact that these guys are building, which gives me a lot of confidence.
Me too.
In this marketplace.
So coming back to, we got to close this thing up, but coming back to the point
Do we have a clock that says how much time we have?
it's 9:08. We'll
Oh.
stay as long as they will, and as long as you keep talking.
All right.
But both of you and I are out of drinks, which means we're almost done.
Yep.
So
By the way, I would love a fireball on ice if anybody wants to.
anyone?
Just saying.
Anyone? Charlie, you should run back and get Lance a fireball and ice. He's laughing. I'm actually serious. So everybody talks about getting hurt.
Yep.
So we have a mitigation strategy for getting hurt.
Yep.
And I want to see what you think about ours and what you've put in place on your own. Because you have your own investments as well. I don't know if they're
Yep.
actually in real estate, but we've talked about it briefly.
Yep.
So
You better have a disaster recovery plan, mitigation plan, whatever you want to call it. My business plan, unlike Todd's simple one-pager, mine's 57 pages long. But it's a 17-year work in progress.
yeah.
Which means, by the way, the first 13 years I was in the business, I did not have a written business plan.
Which is an important point.
I didn't have one. I'd be in a room like this. Who's got a business plan? I would raise my hand. Well, for 13 years, I raised my hand, and I had something, but I really had. I mean, I had an idea.
That means your bank balance was the same for 13 years.
Yeah, but again, you guys might have unique business plans for specific properties. I have a overall business plan. My business plan is 17 years old. I have notes in my business plan that are 17 years old, and I don't take them out. I'll color code them, and I'll say, this is an idea I had 17 years ago, and I might have a note that says that was good or bad. Some of them are still in place, and some of them aren't. But anyway, I'm a big fan of writing your stuff down.
This is why we're friends.
Oh, I was kind of
joking. This is
joking.
why we're friends.
I was
thank you,
kind of
Charlie.
joking.
This is why we're friends.
Oh my
No,
God, my
appreciate
new
it.
best friend. No, are you? You're the bubble guy, right? I'm talking to you
Charlie's
later.
good people.
All right. Great.
So what we do,
Thank you.
absolutely, what we do is we only do, on our IE stuff. OC is a whole nother animal, but IE we only do first position notes.
Okay.
And the exit is we guarantee you a turnkey property.
You guarantee what?
A turnkey property.
turnkey, okay.
And we give you what the cap rate would be at a failure. So what we say is, if we go a whole year and everything goes to shit and the market goes sideways,
Okay.
as an investor, I want to hand you back this house and it's turnkey ready to rent, and you can expect a yield of 5.6% or whatever, because that's a safe way if there's no additional liens to exit
Yep.
the property.
Yep.
So do you have any additional safety nets? Because no one can predict the market change. So safety nets in a dramatic market change to protect yourself or other people.
I think whatever your plan is, whatever your system is, you have to stick to it.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you, again, I've been doing this a long time, but the first time I've kind of been, the second, third time I've been to your guys' club. By the way, who's the lady who's got the $7 million line of credit? Did she leave?
Yeah, where did she go?
Yeah,
she should have stuck around.
Okay, who got her phone number?
Did anybody here get a number?
Okay, so
word?
So we're soulmates. Whoever raised their hand. Okay. So
thank you, Tyler.
When I've got a lady that stands up and says, I think she said a $7 million line of credit.
Yeah,
She's probably full of shit, but
she might not be. What if she's not?
Let's for a moment say she's not. Okay. There's no way. No, I didn't do it myself, but there's no way that lady's leaving this room without me talking to her. And to be honest with you, I'm disappointed because in addition to these guys and the builders, there's her and three other people actually, that I'm not leaving this room without getting their names. But she was one of them. And then the other gentleman came up and was talking about 10 to 12% cap rates. Now this is where I need to maybe hang out with you guys a little bit more, because I'd like to show me those 10 to 12% cap rates.
Is that Robert?
Okay.
What's Robert at?
But then this gentleman, Tom, okay. So I just happened to be sitting in front of Tom during the break. Tim. And I kind of made the same comment, and he's like, yeah, 10% all day. Like, okay. Then I need to, there's something that I could learn from you guys that are looking at investments. Now, again, no bullshit. Don't lie to me.
Yeah, Tim's got good investments. I'll vouch for him. He's got good investments.
Well, no, I'm not saying he's going to lie to me. I'm just saying in general. Who's made a business decision based upon bad information?
If you're not raising your hand, you haven't done business yet. Yeah. Exactly.
I've made a lot of them. And generally, that bad information presents itself fairly quickly, and it pisses me off, especially when it comes from people that work for me or people I trust. But, I mean, if I got a $7 million girl and I got somebody who's finding properties with 10% cap rates, it sounds to me like I've got a marriage made in heaven, okay? So, at any rate, boy, time for some Fireball.
All right. No, I agree. So, we're going over time. I've actually kind of haven't given a shit about asking questions because everybody comes up and asks the speaker right afterwards anyway. So, I am 100% sure. Yeah, I'm just going to speak for him. Lance is going to stand up here or stand around somewhere and take your questions.
Yeah, I'll hang
or
around
talk to you.
for,
If I keep buying him drinks, he'll stick around till midnight.
well, I don't know about midnight, but I'll be around for a little bit. So,
with that being said, can I get a round of applause for Lance Martin for himself?
Thank you.